not change. 3x squared plus 4x squared is 7x squared. It's like 8 fish plus 7 fish is 15 fish. It's just add. All right, the power doesn't change. But here, today, we're going to talk about multiplying polynomials. And when you multiply, powers can change. What is x times x? X squared. Do you see how the power changed? X to the first times x to the first is x to the second. So today, be prepared for the powers to change. So here we have 3x squared times x cubed. And we're going to find the product. Product means the result when we multiply. All right? So when we multiply 3x times x cubed, Twinkle, what would we get when we multiply those two together? Close. It's 3x to the fifth. Because when we multiply these together, we're going to add the exponents. Okay, and it's confusing because you say multiply, but remember, x squared times x cubed is x times x, that's x squared. X cubed is x, 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 so that's why we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, x to the fifth. So this is 3x to the fifth. I'm going to carry this minus sign along because I'm distributing here. And then Ashley, what do I get when I multiply 4x times 3x squared? Good, because we again have to multiply those two numbers together, and when we multiply numbers with the same base, we add the exponents. So we get x cubed. That's why we did the exponents part before we did this part, because we learned those properties. Now, are these like terms? No. So this is the final answer. Okay. You can't combine those. They aren't like terms. So that's as good as it gets. Now with this next example, it says find the product. Again, we're going to multiply. But do you notice how what you're multiplying in? I have a trinomial here, a quadratic trinomial. And it's being multiplied by a monomial out here. When I do the multiplication, I hate to see the monomial at the back. It just, my brain doesn't like processing it like that. So I tend to like to move this out to the front. And so then it looks like I'm distributing more, because I am distributing, but it just follows that structure a little more closely. So it's up to you if you want to keep it the way it is. You can, but I like to move the monomial to the front if there is a monomial. So Charlize, what do I get when I multiply the negative 2x times y squared? Good. Oh, it's the third. Okay. DJ, negative 2y times negative 3y?
6y to the second.
Okay. Is it a positive or negative? Good. So I'm going to put a plus sign there because it's a positive. And then Davey, on negative 2y times 4? Yeah. And so you can either write plus negative 8y or just minus 8y, but that is the same thing. You'll notice none of these are like terms. One is a cubed, one is a squared, one is just a y to the first. So this is as good as it gets. You cannot simplify. Yes?
How would you have to put in a specific order, like the 3y cubed goes first, like 3
Ideally, you'll always leave your answer with the highest power first. And so it is. Thankfully, we have cubed, squared, and first. So my eyes are always kind of honed in on that. It wouldn't be, unless I specifically say in the directions, make sure it is in the correct order. I'm not going to mark it wrong because algebraically it's the same thing. Because you can add in any order, but it's good to have it in that form just to get the practice. All right. So if I'm going to find the product here, Brendan, what do I get when I do negative a times b?
Negative AB.
Negative ab. Okay. And then Ava, how about that one?
AC.
Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive AC. Good. So don't be intimidated if there's no numbers. It's okay. Just get the signs correct. Negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a positive is a negative. Right? Questions on that? We're going to find the product of this. This is a binomial times a binomial. So when you multiply a binomial times a binomial, you have to do what's called double distribution. You have to distribute the x to everything, and then you have to distribute the 2 to everything. So now, I'm sorry, Denise, what do I get when I distribute the x to the x?
X3.
And how about the x to the 5?
Plus 5.
Good. Now, not the, I have to now distribute the 2 to everything behind it. So 2 to the x, and then the 2 to the 5, 10. Now, Isaac, is there any simplification which must occur? Okay. So these can be combined because they are like terms. So what's the final answer?
X to the second plus 7x.
Right. Questions on that? So a binomial times a binomial. 2 terms times 2 other terms yields 4 terms. What if I had a binomial times a binomial times a binomial? How many terms do you think I get then? 1 to 3. Actually 2 to the 3rd power. Get 8 terms, so it's cubes. It's multiplying. So now we have a binomial times a trinomial. So Brendan, first thing we're going to do is distribute the x. Now, we have a binomial and a trinomial. I always like to have whatever has less terms in front. Because it just, I don't know, my brain handles that a little better. So I'm going to distribute the x times this whole trinomial. So Brendan J, x times x squared. Okay, plus x times 2x.
2x squared.
Beautiful. And then x times negative 7.
7x.
Negative 7x. Good. Now I have to distribute the 3. Now, Isabel, the 3 times the x squared.
3 squared.
Now I want you guys to see something. So if you could look up. 3x squared is a like term with the 2x squared. So what I like to do is visually line up the like terms so then they're all just together. So you don't have to find the like terms, you place them together as you write them down. It's kind of like when you're bagging up your groceries, you can put all the frozens together before you get home. So they're all there. You're like, here, put away the frozens. They also keep each other cold, so there's other benefits. Sorry, a little off topic here. Okay, so 3 times 2x. So that'll line up right under the other like term. And then last one is about? Negative 21. Good. So it all lines up kind of like when you're doing like all those operations and the lower grades. Okay, so x cubed doesn't have any friends, so that's just x cubed. We have 5x squareds. negative 1x's, and negative 21 also is a lone wolf there. But I love this lining it up vertically because it's like, oh, okay, so I know what the like terms are right away. Because since you're rewriting it in the process of multiplying, you might as well put like terms with other like terms. Like it just eliminates or lessens errors. Questions on that? Now this says find the product. But what are we multiplying by, DJ? Negative 1. So Twinkle, help me multiply negative 1 into this binomial. So negative 1 times negative 2. Good. Good. Now there's another way to think about that, depending on how you want to treat it. You can think of this, ladies and gentlemen, as the opposite of x minus 2. Opposite of x minus 2 means everything in there you change the sign of. So the x is positive, it becomes negative. The 2 is negative, it becomes positive. So you can think of it in terms of multiplying by a negative 1 or just taking the opposite of it. Okay. So once I got like further on in math, I just treated it as, oh, a negative means make it the opposite of what it is. And then when I went to, especially when you have something real long, when I go to check my answer, I say, okay, opposite, opposite, you know, and I just go down the line to make sure I did it right. And I didn't like mix up maybe something negative when I should have made it positive, because negatives are like, you know, going to be around for the rest of your math life. So this is a commonly missed problem. DJ?
You have to do orders of operations, so you distribute 3 to 4x and negative 8.
So when you distribute 3, are you distributing a positive 3 or a negative 3?
Negative.
Both. Isaac?
It goes down the line.
Sue said it doesn't matter?
If you were to distribute the negative after that, then it's negative.
That's true. But you know what a lot of people do with this problem? They do 6 minus 3, and they get 3. And then they distribute 3 into this. Now that is not following orders of operation. Orders of operation say you have to multiply this in before you do anything else, which is true. Now I would say multiply in negative 3, take care of that negative right away, and then you can combine like terms. So when you do that, you get negative 12x plus 24, and then you just have to bring down the 6. Questions on that?
Wait, you're subtracting, or you're adding 6 and 4x?
You could say 6 plus negative 12x or 6 minus 12x. That is the same thing. So Ashley, do I have any like terms up here?
Yeah.
What are they? What do I get when I add them? 30. So what would my final answer be written in the correct order?
Negative 12x plus 30.
Good. Negative 12x, that 12x is a negative, and then 6 and the 24 give us 30. All right, any questions?
Yeah.